It's Dan Bach of Rotogrinders and scoresandodds.com here to tell you about this incredible sportsbook offer for our friends out there in the state of Virginia over at William Hill. Make sure you use that promo code GrindersRF or hit the link here in this description or this tweet, because William Hill is offering new customers a risk-free wager up to $2,021. One of the biggest I've ever seen in terms of promotional offers. So make sure you take advantage of that. And it's for new customers only after you make deposit. And the way it works is your first bet will be a risk-free wager up to that $2,021. If you hit the bet, great, gonna get those winnings. If you don't, they're gonna refund you and allow you to make another wager of that same amount. And this promo runs through the end of February, so not a lot of time left for you to get in on this. Now, since it's a risk-free wager, the best thing that we can do is try to extrapolate the most money from this, because we know that if it doesn't hit, we're going to get another chance. So we like to be a little bit more risky on our wagers when it's risk-free, and that's why I'm looking at the golf tournament coming up this weekend out in Bradenton, Florida. And two wagers I'm going to suggest for you guys here is going to be Victor Hovland at 25-1, yields upwards of $52,000 if he would win this tournament outright. He's been playing really well. Top 5 last week, top 6, top 2, top 31 his last 4 tournaments, and also has a win this year on the tour. So really like him at those odds. And then Rory McIlroy as well. Missed the cut last week, but back in his home state of Florida, where he's had a ton of success at other tracks, including the Arnold Palmer and the Players. And he comes in at 16-1, so that return is right around $34,000 if he would hit. And remember, if they don't win, it's okay. It's risk-free. You get another wager you can make. Maybe be a little bit more cautious with that one. Well, check it out. It's over at William Hill for customers in the state of Virginia, and you can find them also in their app form, where you can find more details on this great promo. Just make sure you use Grinders RF when you sign up and
What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here at Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 in the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Why am I flustered? Is there take 2? No, we're doing it live. And no time for pleasantries either, because this is a 9-gamer on a Tuesday night. Not messing around. We're bringing in the big guns, starting batting first, leading off, $1 million winner, Andre. This is a big slate. We'll talk to Will in a second, obviously. It's a big slate. There's not a ton of obvious value out there. I think we're kind of at the mercy of some starting rotations, some starting lineups that might change some things. Who's going to start at point guard tonight for Detroit? That matters more for DK than it is for FanDuel. Like Saban Lee is 3.2K. DSJ is still 4.2. And we saw Smith Jr. fall into space last game, and Lee was really solid. And the cap, of course, a little bit tighter over on DK as well. Who's going to play for Dallas tonight? No Kleber, no Porzingis. What's their starting lineup going to be? These are two of the questions that are on my mind as far as tonight's 9-game slate. How about you? What say you? What's your general thoughts before we start breaking it down?
My general thoughts is more so just trying to make sure I'm different. How am I going to be different? And looking at my strategy more so now, that with all the news that's breaking, especially on Dallas, I really wasn't on Dallas as much today to begin with, as a whole, but some of the value openers makes it interesting to want to play some of them. But now I'm just trying to figure out, should I play them pieces or should I not play the pieces on Dallas tonight? If not, then have maybe a little bit of exposure since I'm playing about since I'm max entering today.
This news just broke. Kyle Lowry downgraded to doubtful, despite the fact he's playing Philly. That's the team. I think he's from Philly. You'd think he would do his best to play, but unfortunately he's not available, or at least he's doubtful now. Let's see. Yeah, Porzingis, we talked about it. He's out. Kleber got hurt yesterday. They're on the back end of a back-to-back. Wayne Ellington is resting tonight. Reddish is downgraded to doubtful. Brooklyn, we're waiting for their starting lineup. Jeff Green, questionable. TLC is out for what it's worth. Tyler Johnson is available. Westbrook, despite playing 44 minutes last night, will be available, expected to play tonight on the back-to-back. Golden State, Curry, Wiseman, and Looney. I think all are going to play, but all are currently technically questionable right now. And Harry Barnes is questionable as well, too. That's another one. Will, what are your thoughts as far as this slate? And again, this is a weird place to start, but I don't see a ton of value just yet. Obviously, it's the NBA and it's a 9-game slate. And we're still, an hour and a half. Good math there, Dean. An hour and a half before things kick off as far as the opening tip. Well, the lock time. That's like 12 minutes after lock or whatever it is. I won't get started on that. But what are your thoughts as far as this slate? General ideas? Are we just kind of in a holding pattern? Where are you at?
Well, I'm not in any sort of a holding pattern at all. I'm going to play the guys that I like. I've been talking about this, I guess, probably for the past couple years, in the fact that, you just keep targeting teams that play bad defense, and one day it will come. If you build it, it will come. And I'm going to use last night as an example because, quite frankly, I didn't fully stick to that process. But if you looked at last night and, even on FanDuel, like let's take LeBron and Beal and Westbrook and even Marc Gasol last night. Like if you looked at that game, like that was really the game to target. But there's a couple of things we always notice, when we're playing tournaments. One of those is, everybody comes on and screams late night hammer, but how many of us really put together late night hammer lineups? Not everybody, right? We want instant gratification. We want the screenshots early. We want to see the money lining up. And then you go to sleep and you wake up and all of a sudden Russell Westbrook and Beal and LeBron and Marc Gasol and Kyle Kuzma just destroyed your life. And then you think about it and you say, you know what? I knew this was going to happen anyway. Why? Washington's not playing great defense. Maybe they've improved a little bit, but the pace is still up. And so when you look at these teams, I'm always just going to keep attacking bad defenses. That's why it's never a bad slate. Dallas is not playing good defense. I like Boston. Minnesota is not playing good defense. I like Milwaukee. Sacramento and Brooklyn against each other. Another tasty game. So whether the news breaks my way or not, whether the value breaks my way or not, I'm all in on these bad defenses playing against each other or one side or the other. That's the way I'm going to approach this slate. Denver's playing Portland. Portland's not playing good defense. The Wizards are playing the Clippers. You've got options. There's a plethora of options on this slate, and I just think you just need to get your pool tight and stake your flag on what you think is going to give you the best outcome to yield you the most positive results.
Is this a potential game stack night, Andre? And like, if you are going to stack a game, obviously, Sacramento and Brooklyn kind of jumps off the page. 242 is the total potential blowout value, but whatever. If you're stacking the game, who cares? You're going for first. 6-point dog there as far as Sacramento. We don't know about Barnes just yet. If he doesn't play, we may see Jeffries jump back in the starting lineup and play a pile of minutes. And he's not a very good fantasy point minute player, but he is fairly cheap. And he's a guy, you're going to need some salary savers if you're stacking in Brooklyn because it's all about Harden and Kyrie, obviously. I think John Jordan's kind of sort of somewhat interesting, especially if Green doesn't play as kind of a mid-tier cheapie. Game stacking, is that something you're considering tonight? And is, Brooklyn, Sacramento one of the first places you would start?
Almost definitely. Yeah, my favorite play, honestly, probably one of my favorite plays on the slate is actually in that game. So yeah, I tend to run like mini game stacks a lot of my lineups as far as one of my strategies when I build. At least having like one player run back with someone from the opposing team on at least in one of my lineup most times, just because if pretty much I like to think about it this way: if one player's having a good game on the opposite side, then that means more likely one or two other players on the other side of the game are having a good game as well, and they're going back and forth unless it's a blowout. So I tend to do that more and take my chances, but I think tonight is definitely a game stacking night. It's not that many games that have a lot of interesting things going on. So I think this is going to be it's very weird, but very good slate at the same time. I feel at this. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, Will, your thoughts as far as game stacks tonight, and not just Brooklyn, Sacramento, 242. We got Minnesota and Milwaukee. Of course, there's a blowout risk. Worth noting, Minnesota got a new coach there, supposed to be an offensive smart dude. I don't think he was on the team. I think he was an assistant for a different team. So I don't know how well he knows his players, and hopefully he doesn't run those 12-man rotations like Saunders did. It was an absolute disaster. So I'm happy to see a new shuffle. I don't know what to predict as far as tonight, but you do have some cheap guys on Minnesota outside of Cat. Washington, if you think they're going to hang tight with the Clippers are basically kind of sort of fully priced, and they run a lot of players too. They're essentially, this game doesn't matter for them. They're going to be fine as far they're playing for the playoffs. But 236 massive total, 123 as far as a team total, and then Denver versus Portland, another team. Matchup. Two teams don't play a lot of defense. And you guys mentioned those are 2 late games too. Well, and we have a 2-hour break from game 7, and then there's game 8 and game 9, the kind of a double header. And, who knows what happens from 8 to 10 o'clock. Weird things happen, especially on back-to-back. So maybe Westbrook all of a sudden doesn't play. He's supposed to play, but I don't know. That's his hometown. I guess he's probably going to play, but you never know. Goofy things happen. Thoughts as far as other potential game stacks that are jumping out for you?
Well, I mean, like I said, I kind of named the games. So, for instance, let's talk about Minnesota and Milwaukee. Like, I don't really feel like that's a crazy game stack, because I don't know if any of these players actually get there. Like, I feel like Milwaukee can blow this team out, and Greek can still score 65, and Middleton can still score 45, and nobody on Minnesota helps me at all. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that's how I feel when I try to judge the game. So a game that I think could stay competitive is really Brooklyn-Sacramento, right? I think that's a game that stays competitive. And on DraftKings, just so you guys know, let's just clear this up. I'm going to try to take care of more of the DraftKings today. Dre will try to take care of more of the FanDuel. That way we can kind of split it and help you guys efficiently. When I look at DraftKings, yeah, I'm seeing De'Aaron Fox at 18%, but I don't really feel bad about that. I'm seeing, Marvin Bagley at 0.7%, Halliburton at 1.5%, Harden at 14% today, Irving at 17%, because you can't play everybody. Obviously, DraftKings is going to yield us to more of a stars and scrubs build. But my point is, you really don't have, that high of ownership on these pieces. I will go ahead and give up my favorite tournament play of the day. It's not my lock of the day by any stretch, but I just think Joel Embiid is probably one of the best tournament plays on the slate. I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way right now. I know that's off of that particular game, but I'd be more than willing to run Embiid around some of these pieces, and let's see if we can kind of hit the nuts here. I think Joel Embiid is one of the best center plays on the slate, and currently, I mean, we've got him, looks like 8.7% ownership on DK. That serves me correct. Now, when I looked in lineup HQ earlier, it was at 2.9%. So maybe we split the difference and we say 5. Let's go with maybe 5% or so. I think that's incredibly low for a guy that can really get there. Now, I know you got Harden. I would prefer to play Harden, but I'd be willing to take the tournament approach and play Joel Embiid today. In the event Harden just slightly doesn't get there, like what if Embiid scores 62 and Harden's at 60? Like that could be the difference between first place and 15th place. You know what I mean? So
what does he have to put up is kind of my question, because like if he puts up 55, that's not enough, right? He's got to outscore Jokic. Yeah. You talk about Harden's a big spend. Giannis is a big spend. I don't really think Luke's going to get much ownership, but the Clipper guys, Trae Young for sure. Like, what do you need? What are you shooting for? You need at least 60 plus, I imagine.
Yeah, I think 60 is kind of the sweet spot. I mean, if you look at these last few games, though, and let's start with looks like the Brooklyn game here: 52, 62, 53, 50. Didn't play against Utah. 63, 91, 54. So, I mean, the floor is there, right? If you play Embiid, I don't think he's going to stop you from cashing. If he doesn't hit 60, you just may not win a tournament. But on the flip side of that, you might be able to get away with Embiid hitting 55 tonight if the rest of your lineup hits, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely possible for you to get 55 from Embiid on DK and still win a tournament. So a lot of things can happen. What if Harden ends up being in the blowout game and he scores 48? Well, they won by 25, but did he get his maximum run? I'm just saying, I think Embiid for here's the deal. Embiid, we've got projected at 2% currently. We've got Harden projected at 29%. What's the likelihood that Harden outscores Embiid, 27% of the time? More than likely, they're going to be pretty even 100% of the time, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. And look, Harden's picked up this usage because of Durant. I know I'm talking a lot, guys. Just bear with me here. Harden's picked up a lot of usage because Durant is out. Embiid has the usage when everybody's in. Like it's pretty much apples and apples. It's just which one hits the ceiling game tonight. If I had to bank on which game is a little bit more competitive, in terms of that's going to go to the end without a blowout, I'd probably say Toronto and Philly.
Andre, your thoughts?
I like that. Actually, I forgot to mention my game too. That I think is going to be competitive. And stay close, which I think Atlanta. And then B play though is great. I think he's super cheap. I mean not super cheap, but super contrarian for tournaments. So I like him in my lineups, and I'm going to definitely make sure I have some of them because everyone's on FanDuel. You know, they're playing Jokic a lot, so I like being a little bit at the field and not a little bit under on Jokic, even though I know he has upside, but just trying to get some leverage elsewhere and then builds and have the extra salary. But I think you're going to need probably at least 60. You probably going to need one stud, maybe two studs, honestly, tonight, the way it's working out. But it also depends on how you build your teams. But there's a lot of plays in the mid-range and the salaries are a little bit looser on FanDuel where you can definitely get like two studs in and feel comfortable with your lineup, I think. But back to what I was saying with Atlanta, that game is probably my low key favorite GPP game to stack. I just like.
How do you build it? Take me the thought process. So 2 and 2 is depending on which players they happen to be. How would you build that stack?
I would build it more so honestly like 2-2, 2-1, or even 3-2. Honestly, those are the stacks I'm looking at when it comes to that specific game. I like Garland, I like Sexton, I like Cedi Osman, who no one is really gonna like. People are playing him like 15%, man. I'm pretty sure I think he's lower on DraftKings too, if I'm correct. Yeah, 8% on DraftKings. What I'm looking at right now. I'm going to be probably double the field on Cedi Osman. He's just getting the minutes right now, and it's against Atlanta, who doesn't play that great of a defense, and another fast up-tempo matchup. And I know people don't like playing him, but I think John Collins is in for a big night tonight. He's a play that I'm definitely going to be over the field on with him, and I think he's in line for something big tonight, along with Capella and Jared Allen. Now that he's getting a full run at the center position.
Well, Dean, let me hop in on this Atlanta take here because I think Cam Reddish being out tonight is a big deal. I think Cam Reddish sitting is a big deal for John Collins, Gallinari. Like, man, I mean, you got Rondo coming back tonight. I'm not saying Rondo's going to get big minutes, but this is huge. I think huge news already because they're not going to be playing Nathan Knight and all these guys. It's going to be real tight tonight. Gallinari's probably going to get 30-something minutes. Like, he's on my list now with Cam Reddish being out. Cam Reddish is vacating pretty much 30 to 35 minutes in this game. Kevin Huerter's already at 17%. His ownership's probably going up. So I'm excited, man. I like that call, Dre, for sure.
Yeah, I like the Huerter play. I mean, Solomon Hill. We have projected right now Solomon Hill drawing the start. You're not going to want to play him, obviously. Same deal with Tony.
Don't say that, Dean. Solomon Hill gets 30 tonight. You're going to need him.
Oh, no. 30 what?
Okay.
Andre, you're not playing no Solomon Hill.
Nah, I'm not playing him at all. I'm not speaking that name though into existence because that's when he'll have the big game and I'll be upset for the night.
We're going to bring Keach on actually from our projection team over at Lineup HQ. If you guys want access to Lineup HQ, we're going to talk about it right now. Get yourself $10 off the first month. You guys know how this works. The links will be dropped in chat. $10 off first month. You can get NBA just a la carte, just one sport, or you get all the sports with the exception for NASCAR. Get yourself $10 off first month. RG Premium. Keach, I guess the first thing we're going to talk about, this just dropped. We haven't really talked about it just yet, but DSJ part 2, Dennis Smith Jr. is going to be drawing the start, and I presume that means Lee's going to go back to the bench. I think this is more of a DK question than a FanDuel question, just the way the salaries line up. What are we doing? He's going to chop the minutes 24-24. What do we think is going to happen here?
Wow. So, yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that after that last game that Dennis Smith is starting again. He did start in the last one, but he just played about 14 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Maybe a little bit more than that. But, yeah, I mean, that was obviously a pretty weird situation. I don't know what to expect from him tonight. I kind of thought that they would start Saban Lee and bring him off and bring Smith off the bench. Obviously not what they're doing. So, yes, I mean, the projections will come up a bit for Smith. The 24-24 split's probably actually pretty accurate to what we may end up with. But, yeah, we should probably have that updated within a minute or two now. But a split's probably a pretty good guess.
What else are you guys discussing today? I imagine the Mavericks, right? The Mavericks put their first game yesterday in like 8 days. Now it's a back-to-back. They're without another body. You know, Porzingis wasn't out yesterday. Now we're adding who's not playing? Maxey. Kleber's not playing tonight. They're down to, I think, 11 bodies for what it's worth. Powell drew the start yesterday. Surprisingly, we were thinking it was going to be WCS. Powell has not been that good since coming back from his Achilles injury. It's a back-to-back. It's 27 minutes last night. I don't think he starts. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I do think WCS gets some run, and I think they might dust off James Johnson, who hasn't played in a while. What are you guys debating? Are any of these guys useful to us? We're just kind of at the mercy waiting for the lineup, or even if the lineup comes out and it's Powell, like, can we trust that? It is 3K, and you only need so much in theory.
Yeah, we have Powell projected to start right now, and that is kind of the thing with him is he's 3K, so we have him at 25 minutes, not quite 20 fantasy points, but in terms of minimum price options, not the worst one, obviously. But yeah, just not a huge ceiling. He really hasn't been like the per minute producer this year, or even really last that he was in the seasons prior. I would, like you said, I would imagine Willie Cauley-Stein also sees some run. He's probably the more appealing DFS option of the two, especially if he were to draw the start. He'd be very appealing in that situation. But yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith all get kind of minor upgrades. Tim Hardaway's projecting as the best of the bunch right now, 4.5 on DraftKings and about 28 fantasy points, shade over that. So he's kind of popping as one of the better plays on the wing. And then, yeah, obviously Luka looking for like another smash spot for him.
And that's under the assumption that THJ jumps into the starting lineup, and we're not certain if that's going to happen, but that seems like a reasonable assumption. We'll see. Yeah. What else do you have before we let you go? Do you have any thoughts as far as Brooklyn? Because that could be interesting if Green doesn't play. And there's one other one that I thought was kind of sort of somewhat interesting. And now I'm losing it for some reason. We'll speak to Brooklyn.
I assume Golden State.
Yeah, well, the Golden State one is just, I don't want to play anybody in Golden State, and that's that. Like, because the Knicks play the slowest, they're slower than anybody, and they're a top 5 defensive team. So, I don't want anybody. Maybe that's the bad take. But,
if Curry doesn't play, maybe.
Well, then it's interesting. Yeah, but I think Curry's playing. I guess I kind of made up my mind on that. But, of course, it's not. I don't make these decisions. But, yeah, talk about Brooklyn and I guess the potential if Curry doesn't play.
On the Golden State side at least, we kind of got in a fortunate situation with him over the weekend where he was kind of scratched like at tip-off. It was bizarre that it wasn't a COVID situation. It was somebody leaves with an illness right before a game. It's kind of terrifying. But, yeah, they obviously kind of blew that game in very messy fashion. But if he were to sit, Kelly Oubre averaging over a fantasy point per minute with Steph off the floor this year. Andrew Wiggins also pretty much at about the same mark. So those guys would obviously become far more interesting than they are now. And then James Wiseman is questionable, as is Kevin Looney. So that kind of throws a huge wrench into the front court situation there. But yeah, kind of have to wait on news, see what happens with those guys. And then on the Nets side, it's kind of, they can go a lot of different ways if Jeff Green doesn't go. We could, like, Amon Shumpert is in projections. You might have not thought about that name in like 3 years, but he's back. We have him at 14 minutes. So, you might just see kind of some weird things with that rotation. It's kind of hard to peg exactly what they're going to do. If they do play bigger, and if Green sits and we see DeAndre Jordan play like 30 minutes, he'd kind of be somewhat appealing in that mid-range as a GPP target. Uh-huh. But that's kind of speculative, at least at this point.
And I'm not envious of you trying to figure out Sacramento and their rotations. If Barnes doesn't play, maybe Jeffries plays a ton of minutes again. But, like, who really knows? Bielitsa, I know, has been all over the place as well, too, as far as his minutes, down to a DNP, up to, like, 30 minutes in the last 3 or whatever it was, all over the place. Just sort of keep an eye on that as far as lineup HQ. Hey, you guys got anything for Keach before I let him go? Anybody?
No, not the current moment.
Keach.
What's going on, brother?
Listen, man. Why don't we have Josh Jackson projected for over 30 fantasy points? I'll talk about this after you leave.
In the projections channel, I am 100% the Josh Jackson guy. We have a couple of guys in there, I won't name them, who are anti-Josh Jackson guys. But Josh Jackson actually does become somewhat of a battle in that chat. I'd say maybe once every 2 weeks or so. But, yeah, the last couple of days and last night, I think I'm always typically a bit higher. People always kind of temper me down in the morning. But I'm with you, man. I love me some Josh Jackson. I hope he shoots the ball 30 million times tonight.
That's all I need to hear from the man. That's all I need to hear.
Okay, I wasn't sure, Will, if you like Josh Jackson or you don't like Jackson.
Oh, I like Josh Jackson. I'll talk about this once Keach is back in the sausage room.
All right, Keach, we'll get you out of here. Much appreciated. I'm sure you're going to be on your toes if any of the shenanigans go down. You're going to be all over as far as lineup HQ and adjusting all the way up to lock and even after lock as well, too. Hey, before we talk about Josh Jackson, let's talk about this really quick. Got to get this one out of the way. Will, you go first as far as we have the promo, right? We've got a promo read today. It's PrizePicks. You get yourself $100 deposit bonus, just as long as you deposit up to $100. Well, yeah, deposit $100, get a $100 deposit bonus. Use the promo code Grinders, GRINDERS. That's going to go ahead and be dropped in chat. Will, I assume you have some winners for the people.
Yes, and look, man, let me first of all let me talk about PrizePicks, because I do want the people to know my money is where my mouth is. I've really been dialing up my investment opportunities on PrizePicks. Been pretty much having a good run. I've hit a couple 5 out of 5s recently, which gives you 10x on your investment. And here's where I'm at today, man. We got Tim Hardaway Jr. at an over-under of 26, and I know we're excited about Tim Hardaway with Luka out. I mean, with Porzingis out, excuse me. I'm actually banking on Dallas losing this game tonight pretty handily. So if that's the way I'm going to approach the game and that's the way I'm thinking about it, guess what? I'm going to allow my props to line up. And I know I want you guys to notice I usually use fantasy scores because they use FanDuel scoring, and that's the one that I'm typically on the most. And then we've also got Evan Fournier here, who's got a over-under of 30 fantasy points. I think he goes over. Evan Fournier has been very involved in this offense since coming back. No Aaron Gordon, a lot of guys on the shelf. They definitely needed scoring. No Cole Anthony. Evan Fournier has pretty much been, playing very admirably since he's come back. I'm taking over 30 fantasy points, and this is my 2 out of 2. I got a couple 3 out of 3s, 4 out of 4s, 5 out of 5s. We'll see how that runs tonight. Typically how I'm building my portfolio over there is I just take a handful of players, almost like DFS, and I say, okay, these are the 5 or 6 props that I like tonight. And I say, okay, I'll take some 2 out of 2s out of these props, 3 out of 3s, 4 out of 4s, and build my 5 out of 5. And so typically I'm on the same players at different price points. And that's kind of how I build my portfolio daily. Another good thing about PrizePicks that I think you guys will love, in the DFS world, we're always complaining that the game doesn't start at 7 o'clock. Well, guess what? On PrizePicks, you get an extra 10 minutes to put those props in even after lock. So I'm really excited. That's something that really gets me going. Love PrizePicks. I'm definitely on board with the product, not just a company man building the bankroll to prove it.
Andre, see those picks and raise them.
I got Curry going under if he plays, which I think he will play tonight. New York is just playing at one of the slower places in the league right now, and I think him being ill and game ruled out after lock, that to me was just a sign that he probably is not going to have a good game. I can't see him going off for a big game, especially like I said, they play at a slower pace. And then we got Darius Garland, who I got him going over 31 fantasy points in that game. I love Atlanta. It speaks for itself. I think that game's going to go overlooking, except for him. He's going to be probably high owned, but he's just been playing phenomenal since he's been back from being hurt. So I like him tonight, and the coach is also keeping him in lineup, keeping in the game late too. And then you got Buddy Hield in that beautiful game in Brooklyn. I love that. I love his matchup tonight against James Harden. They don't play that well defense as we all know. So I like him going off for having a big game tonight too as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Cleveland. They're like short on guards, and we've seen like Sexton close games that are down like 25 a couple times now. It's so weird, but they have nobody else. And I mean, I don't know why you can't just throw somebody else out there and like give Sexton a break. And the same thing with Garland as well too. Both those guys haven't played a ton of minutes, and of course they're facing Atlanta, which is a positive matchup as well. Garland, here you go, with 38 minutes last game, 36 prior to that, 40 before that. Like they're running these guys into the ground for sure. And I think Cleveland's lost 10 games in a row. They probably really want to get themselves a W. Hey, I've done a terrible job, by the way. I've totally ignored the chat. My apologies. What up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all that. I have seen some questions being asked. If you guys aren't aware, if we're not talking about somebody for whatever reason, 9-game slate, can't talk about everybody. And if you do, how is that even helpful? Ask about somebody. These guys will answer the question for you. We're compiling them in about 7 or 8 minutes or so. We're going to start asking your questions. Let us know if it's for tournament, if it's for cash, what site it's on. It's so much easier. It makes the question easier to answer. Hey, you were talking about Andre, you were talking about that Atlanta Cleveland game. I like both centers in that game, Allen and Drummond. You can only play one on FanDuel. Of course, if you have the salary, Jokic is an amazing play. I think Embiid's a nice pivot away from Jokic. But as far as Allen versus Capella, who do you prefer?
See, I've been struggling with that all day and trying to figure that out myself. Because they both are honestly in phenomenal spots against each other. But I think I'm gonna go more so Allen from the way I've been building. And as my line's been looking, as we've been progressing on throughout the day and the night. Allen, I think it's just he's just gonna get the minutes. Capella, you don't know if he's gonna get the full minutes or not because he's splitting time. I know with the backup center, who I believe the rookie who's I can't pronounce his name, but I believe he's ruled in. And then also John Collins being back. Like I said, I think John Collins is also in a position where he's probably going to play a little bit of center too today. So I like just going with Allen more so than Capella.
You got to take there, Will?
Now I'm with Dre, man. I like the call. I wasn't fully in on this Atlanta game earlier, but with Reddish being out, man, I've got tremendous interest at this point.
Lowry officially ruled out for what it's worth. Atlanta is on the front end of a back-to-back. A lot of teams are doing that. Cleveland, it's the front end of a back-to-back. Detroit as well. Golden State, Toronto, Boston, and Minnesota. Also worth noting again the debut of Chris Finch, their new coach. Back end of back-to-back. We talked about Dallas, Portland, and Washington. I think it's a 3 and 4 nights for Portland. Same sort of. Nobody's playing Lillard tonight. I mean, I don't think I am. I'm not saying it can always. You don't need me to tell you Lillard's a good play. Andre, I imagine you're running out 100, 150 or something like that. Do you just X players out? Do you get less in the field? Do you take massive stands or just how would you handle a guy like Lillard? Or you said Curry, you weren't really on. You X Curry out. That's it. Like you take bigger stands. Okay.
Yeah, I take stands. Well, some days it depends how I feel about the player, but today I took some stands on some guys, on some higher price guys. Like I'm probably like double, triple the field on Trae Young because like I said, I love that game. But Lillard, he's in a tough spot. He's going to be lost in the shuffle with everyone else at point guard. So I like kind of being at the field, not a little bit over the field on him, because I think he's going to come in probably a little bit lower owned than we expect, than we have him projected right now at 12%. That's just from what I can guess, but everyone else going with De'Aaron Fox and Michael Carter Williams, and also all the spendums that we have tonight on the slate. So I see Lillard as definitely a GPP tournament play, and me definitely want to be at the field, not a little bit over, because it's a good matchup against Denver, who doesn't play defense as well.
Well, I'm going through our ownership stuff right now, and I want to see if you would be significantly over, significantly under, if you'd X anybody out. Looking at FanDuel specifically right now, Kyrie at 32%, Harden at 30%. Do you have a preference amongst those two? Obviously, they're both really, really well positioned.
Me personally, I'm going to take Harden every time over Kyrie. He's just got more ways to get the job done. Like Kyrie can score 28 real points and barely be at 40. And maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but my point is Harden's going to check all the boxes most nights just by virtue of him playing the scoring point guard. Where Kyrie's just, like he said, he handed him the keys. Look, man, you're the point guard. I'm going to play the 2. Perfectly fine. But for DFS purposes, I'm going to side with Harden over Kyrie, no matter the price difference, unless Harden's like 13K and Kyrie's like 7K or something.
As expected, Curry available, Looney available, Wiseman available. Andre, same question.
What was the question again? Sorry, I was just looking at the news myself.
Don't worry, you're good.
Don't worry, just don't play any Warriors, Dre.
Yeah, just cross out the Warriors, man. Here's fast forward, they go to triple overtime.
I was surprised at Wiseman being ruled in, honestly. So it would call me by surprise. I was thinking about that.
That makes me sad too, because now I can't even play Draymond Green anymore. I can't do it.
You can't play no one from that team anymore. It was now got to X him out my player pool. But
it was Harden versus Kyrie.
I'm well over the field on Harden. Harden's definitely the better play in my opinion. He, like I said, he's like Will was saying before. He does it all. He's the scoring point guard, assists and rebounds, and he's going to shoot the ball too. And Kyrie just wants to be the 2 guard and just score all the time. So I'm definitely well over the field. Harden's my favorite play actually on the slate as far as spend up options too. So I know it's not everyone's on. I mean, he's at 30% right now. I'm going to be probably double the field on him. And that's a stand I normally don't take on certain on top tier players that are over 10K. But I just think this matchup is just too good for him. I'm going to be a little bit lesser on Giannis just because I know the matchup is still good. Even though the matchup I know is still good, I think Brooklyn game's gonna be more competitive. And like Chief was saying before, we're getting different with the center play of Joel Embiid, who I really like a lot now that he's brought that up, and looking to maybe try to see if I get some lineups where I get both of them in there together.
With Kyrie or Harden, you're running it back with Fox.
I'm running it back with either Fox, Buddy Hield, or Halliburton. Those are the three options I have that I'm going to run it back with.
Will, Milwaukee facing Minnesota, obviously a nice matchup, just a matter of how long Minnesota hangs in this game. Giannis is well positioned. Middleton, especially on FanDuel, where I think he's 7-3, which is an egregious price. I know he had that, he stumbled a bit there, and partly because Toronto's kind of shut him down, but I love that price on FanDuel. What are you doing with Giannis and Middleton? Do you prefer one over the other necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's Middleton. The price is still there. I think Middleton can still get 40 to 45 in the spot. Still really affordable. No, he's going to have stable minutes. And look, I know he's had some wet the pants games, throughout this stretch with Drew out. But this is a cupcake matchup, man. At 7,200, I don't mind playing him. Also, did want to point out too, going back to our good friends at PrizePicks. I know I've been hopping around today. Just bear with me, guys. I'm trying to give you all the good stuff so you can have it when we get off the air. Kevin Huerter only has a prop of 11.5 real points right now. I'd hurry over to PrizePicks and hop on that immediately, being that Cam Reddish is out. I mean, his minutes, he might play 38 minutes against 11.5 points, man. I think that's atrocious. So I'm getting on that right now as we speak on the air. And I'm also taking a prop of Chris Middleton over 21.5 and Jokic over 25.5.
Oh, I should mention later on tonight, 7:30, Will, myself, Tambo, and Dan Bach, DV. We're going to be talking NBA Top Shots.
Well, and our boy Brennan Ruby. I'm not going to be on tonight, folks. Brennan is going to be there. Dan's going to be there. Dean's going to be there. Tambo's going to be there. And I will be watching at home, kicking back with some wings, and letting these guys talk about Top Shots. Dean, back over to you, my friend.
I was asking him, is it going to be 5 of us? Because I was looking at the names, this doesn't make it. You have a Brady Bunch thing going on. That's way too many people. But okay, I didn't realize you weren't going to be on. But that'll be fun for sure. Andre, have you dabbled in Top Shots? Is that something you care about?
Man, I was trying to. I know I heard there was pot packs last night.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't even log into my account, so I was kind of upset. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna wait till a random day in the morning time at 2:00 in the morning when they drop, and just hopefully I can get one.
Yeah, good luck with that.
By the way, last thing, Dean, let me squeeze this in for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to have Josh Jackson in your lineups. Trust me on this, okay? Here's why Josh Jackson is in play. All these guys are out. If you pull up our handy dandy court IQ, you will see, and Wayne Ellington's out as well tonight. Don't forget that. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, Josh Jackson's probably going to play 30 to 32 minutes. Josh Jackson has a 30.3% usage rate and is averaging 1.25 fantasy points per minute with Rose and Wright and Griffin and Ellington, all these guys gone. I've been on Josh Jackson for the past couple games. He's 5,100 on FanDuel, which is just atrocious. He's 5,800 on DK, and I'm still willing to pay him there. Josh Jackson, folks, I'm telling you, please get Josh Jackson exposure today and thank me later.
I'm just kind of nervous that Detroit's going to extend their rotation and Frank Jackson's going to get some run.
Well, you get nervous, Dean. Josh Jackson's playing 30-plus minutes, and he's going to have 30-plus fantasy points.
He is a fantasy point guy, and like you said, with all those guys out, he gets the bump as well too. And also it's a 7:00 game. I don't like locking in guys at 7:00. Come on, man! I want to be able to stall. Let me hit the stall button. But I agree with you, especially in FanDuel. It's a really, really positive price. Let's knock out some questions from the chat. I'm pulling them up now. Well, Andre, I'll start with you. Well, why do I know? This is Michael talking. Why do I know that Sacramento is the key to the slate, and why am I very confused about Sacramento's rotation and playing time? Well, because you've been watching Sacramento play basketball lately.
Yeah, Sacramento is definitely one of the hardest teams to figure out. That's why I stick to the guys I stick to today, which really matters. The only person I trust in the front court, honestly, anyway, in this game in particular, is Richaun Holmes, who I do have a little bit of, not a lot of exposure to him, but that's the only guy in the front court. I would say stick to playing Tyrese, Buddy Hield, or De'Aaron Fox, and you should be fine tonight if you're playing Sacramento.
Seeing a note here that Dean Wade Different guy. Expected to start tonight for Taurean Prince, for what it's worth there for Cleveland. I don't know if that's starting for Osman or Okoro. I think that's Okoro. I think that's Osman, but I don't know. That's just interesting. I'm curious to see what that full Cleveland starting lineup looks like, but certainly keep an eye on that, I suppose. Not that Wade's this great play, but if he starts and gets a certain number of minutes, and I imagine he's like the stone minimum. All right. Let's see. Will, do you think Atlanta will beat Cleveland by 7 or more points?
Yes.
Matthew wants to know, this is a FanDuel question. So yeah, FanDuel question, Andre, you handle those. DK, you're going to be all over them, Will.
Yes.
FanDuel, give me a cheap power forward for tournaments.
How cheap is cheap? That's
4 or 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5 or lower.
Didn't specify.
Okay. See, all these prices came up on the guys. Only person I have, I think that I like 4 or 5 or lower, I would say, is JaVale McGee, who's going to be popular. I mean, he could do a lot in 15 minutes against Atlanta. So that's the only cheap power forward I would go on FanDuel.
I mean, as a general rule, and I know he's a guy that can get 6 stocks in 15 minutes. As a general rule, I just don't want to play a guy that like his cap is basically like 18 minutes. And I suppose he could play a couple minutes more, but we don't see it, rarely see it. He's got asthma. They can only play him so much. And, he's essentially like a direct swap out for Allen.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also with my construction too on FanDuel, which is I believe is probably different than most. I'm not paying up for Giannis like that. I'm sticking more towards like the mid range of the power forward. So that's where I'm getting different a little bit from most people who I think are going to probably try to target Giannis a lot more.
Will, what about Thompson and Williams for value on DK? Is that Tristan Thompson and Robert Williams? Are they value plays today?
I'm not playing them. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, there's Tice as well, too. And I think there's a chance that game goes smaller. We talked about that pre-show, the possibility of that game potentially going smaller, and then maybe James Johnson running the 5 or something like that. And like trying to figure out, but again, we don't know who's starting for Dallas. As of right now, we're projecting it's going to be Powell along with Luka, Richardson, Hardaway, and DFS. And I think there's a chance WCS jumps in the starting lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if James Johnson gets some run today. And again, hopefully we have that lineup soon enough at 7:30 as far as the tip-off. Let's move on and ask some more questions. Let's see. Hunter should get the biggest bump without Reddish. Herter. Okay, yeah, Herter. We like Herter a good bit. He just seems like he's inappropriately priced. All right, so here's another. This is not something you want to play, Will, but this is a cheapie on DK. Najee. Any interest in Najee there? Under the assumption, I assume, that he's going to once again start for Denver, but he obviously is not spectacular, and you're just hoping you're begging for 20 points somehow.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessary.
Let's see. Well, Andre, it's a revenge game for Carmelo. Any interest in that?
Yeah, I actually do. With he's coming up a good amount for me. I honestly do like the matchup too against Denver. So it's not a spot that not rare. Often I do roster Carmelo, but tonight I like him a good amount tonight.
If you guys are in chat, feel free to fire up some questions. Devin's going to pull them, and we'll go ahead and ask him for the next 8 or 9 minutes or so. Of course, we're going to hand it off to Crunch Time soon enough. You guys are premium members. You all know how that goes down. I think you guys all have to lock Andy. Basically, he steers you in the right directions as far as cash games. And I don't know who's on with them today. Maybe Cards, maybe Tuttle. Someone will be on for tournaments as well, too. Who is it, Devin? Devin's in my ear. STL Cards. There you go. All right. So, all right. Cash game DK. Oubre versus Grant. You can't play Oubre in cash now that everybody's back, right? And it's a bad matchup. We're not playing Oubre.
Yeah, I'll take Grant for 100.
All right. Another DK question for you, Will. Collins, ABC, Kyrie, and Josh Jackson as a core for DK tournaments. You like that core? Collins, ABC, Kyrie, and Josh Jackson. I think you like it.
Kyrie, Josh Jackson for 200.
Well, he wants all of them. He wants all 4. I know you're big on Josh Jackson.
He wants to play all 4?
Yeah, that's his core.
Okay, I like it.
Well, he's combining your picks. Andre likes Collins, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another DK question.
I take Embiid over ABC today, though, just for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, different construction, different position, but yeah, that's reasonable. Well, I guess Giannis is center eligible in DK. DK tournament, Will, you're working hard here. With so many studs in the slate, how much do you like a mid-range build? Trey, I guess Trey. I wouldn't call him mid-range, but I understand the question. With guys like Allen, Garland, Hield, Capella,
No, I don't see that. That doesn't get me excited today. I don't like the mid-range build as much on DK today. Now on FanDuel, we're in a totally different spot, but on DK, I don't like the mid-range. But I think you just stick to the path that got us there. Stars and scrubs is the way to go.
All right, so I'm just peeking ahead. Looks like power forward's kind of tricky
For
today
300.
for FanDuel. People don't want to play JaVale, I think is what's going on, and I'm fairly certain JaVale's being spit out. And no, let me try it again. Let me manipulate these numbers and make sure I don't get JaVale. Yeah. So again, now this is just your favorite power forward FanDuel tournament. Any price? What do you have for me, Andre?
Favorite power forward, I would say John Collins. I'm gonna be well over the field on him. I think he's just, like I said, that whole game I love, and I think he's just in the smash spot tonight.
We haven't talked about the Celtics tonight, or I guess Brown and Tatum. They're healthy. Are we ignoring him? Is that a mistake?
I don't think it's a mistake. I'm double the field on Tatum right now, but he's not popping up as like overall like my top power forward. Because I still have like the cheaper guys who I like. I like Tice probably a little bit more than Tatum, just because of just more so based on the price, and also the matchup. So I think they're not. I think they're on where they should be, but I'd rather personally be a little bit over the field on them.
I don't think it's completely insane to play Naismith at 3.2K on DK. They like him there. All right. With no Lowry for Toronto, we saw last game against Philadelphia that they used Baines. They used his girth. I think he started the second half, and he's 3.2K on DK. I don't know if he's going to start this game or not. Just sort of worth noting. And the others, it was against Embiid, so it's the same matchup. It's a really, really trick. I'm just trying to find a way to be different or find a way to save some salary around the obvious stuff that I don't like so much. Let's move on and ask some more questions. Hopefully I didn't skip any. Will, Josh Jackson or Jetty? Oh,
I'm taking JJ, man. Josh Jackson's my guy. I'm taking him over Jetty. If you can get them both, play them both. But if I've got to choose between both, I'm taking Josh Jackson.
All right, Will, username is Angry Vic, so you better get this right. DK Tournaments, always going to come at you on Twitter. DK Tournaments, do you like Gallinari tonight?
I do. No Cam Reddish. He's in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, they did extend his minutes. Remember they said he's got a 30-minute limit? Like, he still hasn't got there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to play 30.
Second, man, I forgot about this. I meant to plug this earlier. See, I have all this stuff that I got, nuggets I want to give out. If you think Minnesota's getting blown out, please do yourself a favor and play Bobby Portis in your tournament bills. Please. If he gets 25 minutes, he could be a slate breaker against Minnesota. Please, I'm begging you. Only in MME, though. This isn't a cash game play. This isn't for the faint of heart. If you think Minnesota gets blown out, you got to have Bobby Portis. All right. I meant to plug that in earlier with my Josh Jackson take, and I just forgot about it. So back to the question, Steve.
Andre, any Aminu on FanDuel? We're not playing Aminu, right?
No, definitely not playing Aminu. He's not in play tonight at all for me.
Yeah, I think he's starting, but I don't think we care. All right. Harden and Irving in the same tournament lineup. Is that something you can do on DK tonight, Will?
I think you can. Do you want to? Maybe. But I definitely think you can.
Harden could get 65 and Kyrie can get 52 or something like that. And do you run it back with anybody on the other side? Yeah. Do you feel obligated to do that?
I don't feel obligated unless somebody gets ruled out. Like if somebody gets ruled out, then maybe. Because I mean, I do feel like Fox is priced appropriately. Halliburton is overpriced on DK. So I think, what you'll have to do in this game, if you want to game stack it, you just game stack it and don't worry about the salary. Because I don't want to play a Buddy Hield over 6K. I don't want to pay for Halliburton over 6K. But if you're concerned, if you just want to stack the game, you're just going to have to eat the salary and know, hey, this is just one of my, game stacks that I'm taking on.
Well, you're getting all the usage tonight. You're like James Harden, because another question for you, DK specific. 6.2K is the money I have to play with. Give me a forward. Who's your favorite forward at 6.2 or under?
6.2 or under at forward. Give me Josh Jackson, man. 5,800. It's simple.
What if I already have Josh Jackson? Because I've been watching the show and I plugged him in.
If you already have Josh Jackson, I'm probably going to take Jetty Osman and upgrade somewhere else at 5,600.
Yeah, thoughts on Baines to play 30 minutes again tonight? I don't think it's a guarantee by any means, but I would say Lowry being out does help that cause, and the opponent being Embiid does help that cause, but I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't assume that's going to happen. Do you have a thought on that, Andre, as far as Baines and his minutes? They're certainly volatile.
They're definitely volatile. I wouldn't. It's hard to think about playing him just because I think last week he played like 20 minutes, but his fantasy point per minute is decent. So I mean, he's worth a tournament shop. And as far as if you're playing like 150 lineups, but if you're not, I wouldn't take that risk. Honestly, I would just go and try to find value somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm pulling up his fantasy points per minute in the season, and traditionally I think around 1 in my head at least. Actually, 0.78 this season, which is I think it's less than it's normally been. For what it's worth. Just a couple more before we step aside and get out of here and make way for crunch time. They want to know my best Top Shot advice. I'm not the guy to ask. Like I dabble. I have made a profit. Well, it's impossible not to make a profit if you started like a month ago, basically. But I'm not the guy to ask. But like I have thoughts. I'm happy to expand on it. But like it's important to know what you don't necessarily know. And I'm willing to listen. We're going to be talking about it in an hour. How about that? And at 7:30, we'll be talking about Top Shots. That'll be good times for sure. FanDuel Tournament Center, your favorite one. Who do you have for me, Andre?
Jared Allen.
Do we care that Dean Wade is starting? Is this something that we should worry about?
I'm worried about it more so for Cedi Osman. I need to see a lineup. That's what I've been trying to figure out while we were on here. Because if he's starting for Cedi Osman, I'm going to be a little bit worried about his minutes. Unless he's just going to get all the second unit minutes, then I love him even more and might want to get more of them.
And like Jetty would close, wouldn't he? Like Wade wouldn't close this game. Like he'd still probably play 30 minutes off the bench.
Yeah, I would assume so too. That's why hopefully with time that game blocks at 7. So we should hopefully get a lineup. We should get a lineup very soon.
They really like Isaac Okoro for what it's worth. And I don't understand why yet. But I haven't, put on my scout hat and evaluated him. But man, it feels like he should be going to the bench, not Jetty.
Well, he's young and they've lost 10 games in a row, and who cares? So you might as well give him some run. But he doesn't look like he's ready to go. Hey, we got to go. Will, give me some final thoughts, closing thoughts as far as this slate.
Listen, man, I tried to give up my thoughts all day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate you hanging out. It's always a ton of fun to come on and try to help you guys earn as much as you can.
Stay tuned for crunch time. That was Will. That was Andre. 50-50, I guess, the right direction. I'm not really certain, but I was 100% Dean. This was basketball. Enjoy your thing. Stay tuned for crunch time and then Top Shots. Talking Top Shots 7:30. Come back to Rotogrinders. Like, subscribe, the whole deal. We much appreciate it. We're out of here. Ho!